I think I want to take advantage of the fact that we are loved outside for our, for our cheerfulness, for our idea of service beyond duty, our nurses, our caregivers. So there's a lot to love about Filipinos, and there's more to love here.
Thought-provoking conversations with the people shaping our country. We uncover stories behind the headlines with influential voices from the Philippines and beyond. This is Manila Bulletin's The Sit Down.
Hi, this is Philip Kunhing and welcome to a new episode of Manila Bulletin's The Sit Down. Today we have a very special guest with us. This is Secretary Maria Bernardita Angara-Mathay, who likes to be known as Dita, and she was appointed Secretary of Tourism just 2 months ago on April 10th. And she was given really, I guess, what could be described as a new mantra for tourism development here in the Philippines of jobs, business and investments, and regional cooperation. So it's not just anymore about increasing foreign visitors to the Philippines. It's about creating a stronger infrastructure for what would be a long-term development for tourism here in the Philippines. No? So welcome to Manila Bulletin's Sit Down, Secretary Dita.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. First question I want to throw is like something that's kind of on the light side, for me anyway, no? But like commentators often write about the Philippines as being cursed, no? That we're perpetually enduring this scenario of 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back, and then we're plagued by lack of continuity. How do you think these views apply to us historically in the DOT especially? And then what you think you'll be doing to try to break this vicious cycle?
Um, I think it's not for me to comment on history, what transpired before me, but I'm a subscriber of um, what ain't broke should not be fixed. Okay, so an institution should not be built on the cult of personality. It should be built on a system or a network which will ensure growth and long term sustainability. So in that respect, I can actually give an example. The slogan itself, I believe that it's been changed from time and again, but I guess the slogan have fun in the it's more fun in the Philippines was used by 3 secretaries. And we moved to love the Philippines, and I'm not going to change that. Just really going to refresh it and make it more relatable to people and have their own interpretation of love. Okay. Different cultures have different interpretations of love anyway. In the same way that the Japanese are not that direct in their speech, and some cultures are. But for the Filipino, I think I want to take advantage of the fact that we are loved outside for our, for our cheerfulness, for our idea of service beyond duty, our nurses, our caregivers. So there's a lot to love about Filipinos, and there's more to love here. So in that sense, I want Filipinos to discover hidden gems, hidden festival experiences, and know that they are blessed with a country with abundant natural assets, and they themselves hold the key to inviting more foreign tourists to the country.
When you say you're going to maintain the slogan, that's not even with an addition of a punctuation mark or love the Philippines exclamation point or love comma the Philippines.
Well, it's still love the Philippines, but there's an additional line.
Okay.
Rediscover more ways to love the Philippines.
Okay.
Yes, because it's a domestic tourism campaign built on offering Filipinos in the diaspora with a more competitively priced bundled packages that I was fortunate enough to have stakeholders to commit to.
Yes,
So
because
that's
I know during the hotel Sales and Marketing Association meeting that you attended and I was there, they were also talking about lowering now the hotel charges and
yes,
stuff, no,
yes.
for balikbayans and for local tourists as well.
Both, yes.
For
And
both.
also Philippine-based tourists, let's say the expatriates, they can avail
Okay.
of the same.
Because you see what the local tourism in quotation marks as like the low-hanging fruit that has to still be further developed.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And
yes.
just so that the viewers are aware, local tourism makes up for how much more than even foreign arrivals in terms of revenue for the hotel and restaurant industry.
I think if we look at the recent data, they make 4 times more The economy benefits 4 times more from inbound tourist arrival. That's at least 2025 year on year comparison. And we'd like to take advantage of this because that only shows an innate desire to travel, whether it's on a budget or not. So we want to give that kind of offering and build on that inclination to travel inside.
Okay, and as we're speaking, I know that you'll be mounting a whole campaign for that domestic tourism event tomorrow at
Yes.
in New Valley, no? So this will come out much later after that. But is that like a protracted campaign in terms of several stops? It's like a road show, or what's the intent for that campaign?
To be honest, we haven't gone to that level of detail yet, but it has a period from July to November, just before the Christmas holiday. And truth be told, it's the time when travel is lean. Rather than be left with stranded assets, we can easily entice the hotels and resorts to offer significant discounts to our travelers.
It's nice.
And it's weather resistant.
Yes.
You want to stay in hotels and do a staycation with family and friends.
Yeah. The significance of tourism for dollar revenues and employment is actually very well established. No? But what do you observe holds us back, and where do you feel you'll be actually changing the scheme of how the Department of Tourism will address its initiatives and its priorities?
Well, it's for me. It's more of a challenge. It's like something that you need to sort of work on harder. And these are two things. One is connectivity. It's got a lot to do with facilitating better air access so that you get better fares. And island hopping is based on how good your port facilities are and itinerary development. So that's what we need to work on, connectivity. The other one is collaboration. The president actually wants to push for a whole of government approach. Nothing can be solved or can be made sustainable if we don't work together. So, for instance, the Department of Foreign Affairs has a role to play with regards to visa facilitation, changing the policy. And we see a change in visitor arrival because of, us granting a 14-day visa-free stay for Chinese in China and Taiwan. At least in China, it's limited to Cebu and Manila, but we want to increase that to cover more areas. And we want to make it from a 14 to a 30-day visa-free arrangement. And we're actually seeing immediate results from this policy. For instance, our Chinese arrivals have increased by over 60%.
Okay, that much already.
Yes,
Okay, because
yes.
I know it declined quite a lot during the last 2 years, no? So
It
it's
did.
increased now.
We haven't quite reached the numbers of 2019,
Yeah.
but that's the target. We want to open more chartered flights from the interior cities to our beach destinations. Okay. In India, we all have a 48% increase in arrivals, although they're the top 10 already, in the top 10. So, ease of travel and taking out the friction of travel is significant. For the Department of Public Works and Highways, they have to build the roads. For the DOTR, they have to give us more usable port facilities and more investments in airport terminals, etc. And that's a whole of government approach, and DTI especially. But we also want a whole of industry approach. We want everyone to work together. Because the pie is big actually. And for instance, for MICE, if we bid as one entity, as a country like Thailand, we will up our chances of getting or winning the chance to host a international convention or an exposition. Same goes for halal, which is I think right now, based on figures, it's a $300 billion industry with 2 billion consumers to service. So we have multiple certification agencies working right now, and it's working to some degree. But if we have, like Malaysia, one centralized, like JAKIM, a certification agency, we build a more seamless subscription to the service, and our standards become more regular and uniform. So things like this, collaboration and
Yeah.
connectivity.
I mean, I'm going ahead because I know this is like something I was going to ask later on. But since you brought it up, you were mentioning halal tourism, no? And I understand we're like one of the top 5 Muslim-friendly countries, and yet what happens now? That doesn't translate to actual Muslim visitors right now. Is that the case or the scenario?
Actually, Indonesia numbers are going up, and we hope Malaysia will go up too. So there's a lot to build on. I think it's an exciting sector or niche, something that we have to work harder on. In fact, for the ASEAN summit, we are going to make our buffets not we won't say this is halal and this is not halal. You don't even know everything is halal because actually halal is I tried halal food just last week, and it's it's very good. It's tasty, and you know in your mind it's the preparation of food is clean. There's significant investment that goes with it. So I think we will do well in halal if we work together and take care first of trust. Certification I think is the key.
And that would entail what? Stronger promoting within, like, for example, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the other Muslim countries.
Well, I talked to the ambassador of Malaysia, and he said, we have identified a private sector entity to work with you,
Okay.
and it will bear the Malaysian seal somehow, indirectly. But what the first thing that we have to take care of is, the parties agreeing to have one. That's the challenge.
Because I know from the first half of 2026, well, not until hasn't reached the end yet of June, no, but the primary source market now for the visitors in 2026 is the USA, no,
Correct,
surprisingly, no,
correct,
which is
yes.
like a pickup from previous years, no.
Yes.
Okay, and
correct.
then after the USA, it's South Korea pa rin, and then
Yes.
what? Japan, China, and Australia. Am I
Correct,
correct?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
so that's where you're saying like countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, even the proximity being a factor, which obviously should have been a advantage to us, isn't really translating to arrivals yet in big
I
numbers.
think it will.
Okay.
It will, but we just have to be patient about expecting that kind of arrival from these regions because we recently had the ASEAN summit, and although we had some agreements made, the agreement is not to have one big regional market ready. It's more an agreement to promote or facilitate seamless travel. So treat ASEAN as one unit for a vacation, especially from long haul travelers.
So maybe what that translates to is like maybe what, 4 days in the Philippines, 4 days in Vietnam, 4 days in
Something
Thailand,
like that.
then head back to Europe or head
Something-
back to the
some-
USA.
That's true.
I was there during the ASEAN conference in Cebu, no? And I know the one thing that struck me when I was there was how the people from Vietnam were saying that there's actual cooperation between Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos because they all share borders.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's almost like a Schengen kind of
Yes,
setup
yes,
there, no?
yes.
But that won't work for us, no? Because we're an island archipelago. So
Yes.
what is in store for us in terms of regional cooperation that's actually doable?
Surprisingly, those countries want to sign a memorandum of cooperation with us because they want our long haul travelers, those coming from, the long haul travelers. So I think we should turn our uniqueness into an advantage. We are indisputably an archipelagic nation, and we can offer much better beaches, much better water related travel experiences. We have arguably the best marine diversity in this side of the world or in the continent, in the world. So we should capitalize on those things. Push for cruise tourism, push for diving, push for beach travel, but at the same time encourage while you're on the beach, go to the interior provinces and experience the local culture, food, visit to faith tourism, visit to old churches, etc. So we can do that. We can offer that better than anyone else.
Okay. Without playing favorites, are there particular destinations that you're actually earmarking and sort of like, calendaring as something that you want to prioritize here in the Philippines for foreign visitors?
Right now, of course, it's always the beaches first. But we like, for instance, we have Boracay and we have Palawan. So we'll still work on those things. But we have places like Siquijor, which my friends went to recently, and they said it's a gem in itself. Yes, I mean you have the beach, you have the waterfalls, you have the a lot of things there. So we have a lot of these hidden treasures which we want our regions to tell us more about, which we want our regions to package in tandem with people who are in the business of it. Because arguably, we're not really in the business of pushing revenue generating ventures. Discovered that our regions are more into training, into accreditation, which are very important. But the business of packaging a tour, that's what we need help on. So
And
we
when you say we need help on, you mean the tour groups themselves have to organize themselves
yes.
and find a way
Well,
to.
we'll help them. We'll help them. We had a meeting with Klook recently, and they said they'll be very happy to renew our memorandum of cooperation, which expired recently. But we're adding more to that.
Okay.
Okay. So,
We
but yeah,
we touched on halal tourism, no, and then I know the other thing that people push a lot here in the Philippines as because envious of what happens, for example, in Thailand or even Singapore or Hong Kong is food tourism, no. Last year we had our first Michelin guide for the Philippines. Can you reassure the public in terms of what's going to happen in that arena? Are we continuing with Michelin for at least 1 or 2 more years, or what's
I
happening?
just signed the document, the
Okay.
contract to extend it for 2 more years, even three, because I believe that we are emerging gastronomic country, tourism destination. We were featured recently in Nikkei, which is the most prestigious economic paper in Japan, and they cited us as the emerging jewel for ASEAN gastronomy because we've built we're not trying to copy Singapore, Malaysia. They've built or Hong Kong, solid culinary identities by themselves. But we want to highlight, our regional cuisine that varies across the archipelago. We want to highlight, because we know that we have two-star Michelin restaurant and an 8 1-star and several, but we know that. Then we have these restaurants or establishments have been gaining a lot of customers, but we need to push it out. We need to push the message outside.
And me personally,
Yes.
I've written about how I commended at the time, no,
Yes.
DOT for pushing really that Michelin guide. Because
Yes.
while a lot of purists were complaining that it should be a Filipino
Mm.
guide saying what's good to eat in the Philippines, I was saying, let's be realistic, diba? When you're a tourist here, you're not gonna look for a Filipino guide.
I
You're gonna
so
look for something
agree.
that has some kind of global credibility, no?
I
And
so
the Michelin
agree.
provides that. And so I know a lot of like the Cavenderias and like even the Pilla's Kitchen and Grid, they're so thankful that that Michelin guide came along and sort of recognized them for what they were doing. No, so I love hearing that you're continuing that.
That's an
That's
easy sell. Doris Magsaysay ho, we had lunch together, I think 2 weeks ago. She offered, she hosted a lunch in her home for the chairman of Nitori Holdings. And we were all amazed at the setup and the menu that she prepared for us. It's Filipino, but with a twist. I won't even call it fusion because it was really some people don't like fusion, but we all loved it. The Japanese guests loved it. So what she's doing and what we agreed to do together is to push Culinaria, the book, to all the embassies in the world. I haven't talked to Secretary Lazar about this yet, but we can start with the other attached agency. We're going to push food preparation, sourcing local ingredients, and then holding diplomatic events in the chanceries so that we push in the diplomatic channel what Filipino food is all about. So I'm quite excited about that.
No, well, my partner Isa, no, she was the one who hosted the Michelin last year, so
Ah.
she was really happy, sort of like pushing that initiative in terms of how it would be recognized globally, no, because I feel that's still something where we're kulang, no,
Yes.
in terms of recognition of Philippine cuisine as a
Right.
legitimate world class cuisine, no.
I'd love to work with you and Isa to
Okay.
push this further,
No,
abroad,
we would love to help you
Yes,
because I mean
yes.
it's really something that well, anecdote lang. I mean this is part of the interview, I guess. But when I traveled with my kids back in the 90s, when we went to Disneyland in Orlando, we ate in a Thai restaurant. And when we spoke to the owner of the Thai restaurant, he was already saying, and this was still back in 1996, no, how the Thai government was really pushing to promote Thai food abroad. And that was way back 30 years ago, di ba? And that they were allowing furniture to be brought in at a special rate. Thai Airways was helping bring in so that even the restaurant looked like it was like a slice of Bangkok or something like that. No, so I felt that was always what we were kulang with here. No, that while we're pushing Filipino restaurants here, for foreign visitors to come and really feel that they'll be comfortable here, they had to have tasted Filipino food in their own cities, di ba? And so you'll see a Thai restaurant in almost any major city, whereas now where it's only emerging that the Filipinos is pushing that. No, so I don't know how the government can still help in terms of Filipino entrepreneurs or food entrepreneurs who are trying to develop Filipino cuisine in foreign cities.
Right. Well, we're here to listen and we're here to, push what needs to be pushed. But, we would like to work with the stakeholders to optimize the benefits of what's emerging.
I think they want to hand the
here we
book to
go.
you, Culinaria.
Here we go, Culinaria.
Okay.
With food recipes and presentation as well. So I told Doris to make this, people don't like reading thick books,
Right.
hardcovers.
Yeah, coffee table
because
books.
sabi ko, let's just make it easy to read. Come up with a five menus or dinner menus, and then let's ask all of the embassies to serve that and get actual feedback.
Or create like with food influencers that they do little snippets of it on TikTok or whatever.
Absolutely,
Because it's how you're going to reach the audience.
Digital,
diba?
yes,
That becomes
that's right.
If you're going to stick to a hardbound coffee table book, good luck. Diba? First of all, I know that
Thank
book's not
you.
gonna cost 50 pesos, right?
Absolutely.
That's why. So I mean, it's really how the content's going to be absorbed or generated so that it really reaches a lot of people. No.
Right. We're doing well because JTB, the president of the biggest travel agency in Japan, asked about the slow food movement in Bacolod. Yes, and said, when are you going to hold it? Because Japanese people, they're foodies, and outside of the beaches, they're looking for culinary tourism. So that's one thing we want to push. And then we were featured recently in Nikkei.
Yes.
With Manamas taking the spotlight.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm quite optimistic about
Don't think
that.
I don't notice that you keep coming back to things Japanese.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the people are aware, you're a very fluent speaker of Japanese, right? Of
I
Nippongo?
wouldn't say fluent. I dare not say that. But yes, I can understand.
Because you did your, master's or
I
something
did my
in Japan?
master's in Japan, took my graduate studies in Waseda University, which is like the Ateneo of Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had actually two choices.
Sorry, why do you say Ateneo? Because of the Jesuit?
Because they're
It's also
private
Jesuit?
sector,
Okay.
private
But not because they're
university.
Jesuit university.
No.
Okay.
There are two big private universities there. Is Kakeo and Waseda.
Waseda.
And I actually was able to pass both. I
Okay.
only took 2 exams and I passed both.
Continuing on that theme of Japan, no, you were mentioning the recent Mr. Akio Nitori had dropped by here in the Philippines. No, so he basically is the largest home furnishing company, right, from Japan, and he had his first store here in 2024, and he's mentioned that he was committing to open even over 100. No, one would think that that's more like a DTI kind of jurisdiction. But I know you came from DTI, but you were very omnipresent during that visit. So can you talk a little bit about that and whether you were actually partially or fully responsible for that visit?
The state visit.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, for
here.
Mr. Notori's visit here
Okay.
to the Philippines.
Akio Nitori is actually a self-made entrepreneur. And he's like a mini celebrity in the business community of Japan. And at any given time, he's either number 9 or number 15 richest in their version of Forbes in terms of net worth. But he loves the Philippines, and he actually appreciates the fact that we put a premium on Japanese goods. And that's hence the plan to aggressively expand to 100. In fact, he said 300, but he wants 100, okay? But he's also a person who loves the arts and culture. He actually owns 4 museums and um, owns several Japanese inns with, personal hot springs,
So he also does
onsens inside.
hospitality
Yes, he
besides
does.
the furniture.
And then he recently acquired a historic Kyoto garden with a centuries old facility inside.
Okay.
So anywhere in time you can appreciate the 4 seasons from that park. Okay. So he came here and he said he wanted to have lunch with me. And I said, let's have lunch. And so I wanted to, since he was expanding, we wanted to call all the mall operators, So the first person I called was Doris. And Doris said, let me co-host it.
Yeah.
I said, well, you have a nice house. Let's go host it together.
Yeah.
So we invited Mariana
Yes.
Zobel.
For Ayala Malls.
Yes. And then Kevin Tan.
Yes. For Mega World Malls.
Yeah. We also had Tessie Cosonsi.
Yes. For
Yeah,
SM.
so we had the mall operators. So those who were not present were not present because they were traveling.
Right.
Okay. And then last minute, the first lady decided to join us. Okay. So during some part of the conversation, he said that he was talking about culture and how commerce, culture, design, and retail all go together as one ecosystem. And that's where I'm coming from. Retail is part of the tourism experience. I just want to say something like when the Paraguay president was here, one of the 2 members of his delegation asked if they could go shopping in Uniqlo in Intramuros. I said, no, there's no Uniqlo there. But they sort of think that when they visit a cultural or heritage site, you can do shopping, you can eat dining, etc. So that's what we want to build. Okay. So retail is very much part of my portfolio than it is Secretary Roque's. So he was asking about, Japanese are very empathetic about disaster victims. And he asked about the earthquake victims in Mindanao. And he committed to donating 3,000 Nitori items to the most afflicted earthquake victims. But when he met the first lady and they got to talking about, culture and their passion to promote the arts, etc., preserve heritage site, he decided to up his donation to another 30 million pesos. So, it's good to have the first lady there as ambassador. So that was the result of that launch, apart from other things.
And you did mention the recent state visit, no?
Yes.
And you were also very instrumental in terms of the array of people who actually discuss stuff with our president and with the first lady, no?
Yes,
Can you take us through that a little bit?
Yes. Actually, this is the first time that we're holding this type of activity in a presidential visit. So I said, okay, we have actually a lot of interfacing. We are infrastructure supported. We need logistics. We need to deepen our inventory of products for the consumer and services for the visitor. So let's just say that we're aligned, but we are aligned. We are starting to get aligned, just to be clarify. And then let's see how they respond. And that experiment yielded unexpected results, because normally if you invite the chairman of a trading house, he thinks he deserves a one-on-one with the president. But all of them coming together was a big accomplishment or a big feat. It was, a coup, because they responded to the message that government will align themselves for long-term growth. And that means infrastructure supporting connectivity, digital infrastructure, physical and digital, all those things, retail. And so they said, well, this is something that we need to talk about. And we had plans anyway. So let us report our plans and interests in this sector. And that's how the roundtable went,
For those who aren't aware, Secretary Dita was connected as commercial counselor of the Philippine Trade and Investment Center in Tokyo, no? And you were the senior special trade representative of the DTI, no? And so that gives you the whole, you had years of experience in terms of
Yes.
dealing
And a
with these
network
people.
too.
Yeah, and a network. That the most important thing is the network, no? there's also, I wanted to congratulate the DOT. No, there's a new #1 citation as the best retirement abroad index. And what time frame should we anticipate for these awards to actually translate into significant uptakes in terms of revenues for the country? In this case, it will be people retiring in the Philippines. No.
Right. Yes. Actually, the decision to retire takes a bit of time. You know, I'm a senior. If I want to retire anywhere, I'd take into consider a lot of things. For the Japanese first. Oh, here we go again.
Japanese
okay.
again. I know it's not surprising.
Well, for
but yeah.
the you know, it's they need the retirees need to be close to an airport. Need to have caregivers who speak in Japanese because I studied that too. But for other nationalities, it's other things, right? So it will take a bit of time for it to translate into actual retirement villages to be set up here. But it creates awareness already and recognition and awareness. So that's important. So it will take some years before it to translate to actual retirees. But I think the numbers are moving in the direction that we want. So 2002, we had 2,500 retirees. 2025, we have 14,000. So that's a big 14,000.
Okay.
So I think just getting that recognition is a big plus in that direction. The same for our beaches and our diving sites. We've won many awards, okay? And we've generated our fair share of tourists in that area. But I think what we should be concentrating now is just getting the recognition and getting the awards, but translating this recognition into conversion. So we have to, again, think about making investments in connectivity. We are talking to the LGUs, talking to the airlines, the airport operators, just to make sure that connectivity is addressed. It will take a while, but if we start now, I think we will achieve something.
And you would say there are enough hotel rooms now here in the Philippines, or
Well, not enough.
there's still not enough?
We have to
Okay.
have more, yes.
So what's the status for visitor arrivals for at least like the first half to date of 2026?
Over 3 million
Over 3 million
and 6% growth YOY.
from year to year.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
sige. And how does that sort of take into account what you were projecting for final figures for the year 2026, given that there's stuff like that happened like in March of this year, no? The crisis in the Middle East and stuff. Are you going to be more conservative?
Well, I just want to achieve what was achieved last year. Okay. I will be cautiously optimistic about the second half because other things will apply by then. But I think if we reach the same numbers for the end of this year, it's a good enough show.
Okay.
Whatever we're putting in place now will be seen in 2027 and 2028.
Okay. And I'm just being very sort of frank also. Would you feel that, for example, other countries in the ASEAN are also taking that kind of strategy, just hoping that it's the same figures as last year? Or do you feel that Vietnam, Thailand are still being more aggressive?
I think they're being more aggressive. But what we're going to do is for them not to get our share.
Yes.
So, we know what to do. Well, I think that's being very optimistic of me, but we know what to do at least internally. We will empower the regions to come up with better curated packages. And then we will also empower our tourism attaches outside to know how to translate these packages into actual sales. So we're willing to fund things that need to be funded at this point. Okay. We will actually think of a strategy to address the declining numbers of our Korean arrivals. In fact, I'm going to have a meeting with the Tourism Promotion Board to sort of see what we can do at this point in time to bring the numbers up.
And in context, just so that at least the public's aware, no? Because they're public figures naman, no? We're ranking number 6, right? Within the ASEAN region alone. It's Thailand, it's Malaysia. Thailand, Malaysia are 1 or 2. They interchange 1 or 2.
Yes.
And then you have Vietnam, Indonesia, strengthened by Bali. You have even Singapore above us, right? And so we're like number 6, right? In the
Yes,
Philippines,
yes,
in the
yes.
ASEAN region right
Yes,
now.
yes.
So there's a really lot of room to improve. No?
Absolutely,
It's just a matter of taking the right steps to make that improvement
Yes,
happen.
yes,
No?
yes.
Okay. And for systemic changes that had to be done to make it a more practical pragmatic improvement. What do you want to prioritize right now, given that you've assumed this position just 2 months ago? No?
Right. Yeah. I think we should deal with connectivity. That's really a big issue. I mean, people are always talking about how it's very hard to get from one point to the other. You know, and that means a lot of infrastructure, a lot of new investments in transportation. So, for instance, you're waiting for an airport to be built in Bulacan, and the railway system from Bulacan to Clark, that will take time. And if those things are in place, we will see a big jump in tourism because connectivity will be solved by those two things in a very big way. So even if we build an acro city in Bulacan where there's a little bit of a casino and some heritage sites to be visited, that won't translate if we don't have the airport yet or that railway to transport people. The same with Clark. So I hope people will be a little bit more generous in their expectations. We are starting to plant the seeds, but just like any other, industry planning effort or venture, people will just have to wait and bear the inconveniences that these new investments will create. Yes.
And I'd be remiss if not to mention that a lot of people say it's just so expensive to come to the Philippines,
Yes,
no?
yes, yes.
Compared to like other ASEAN country or destinations like Vietnam, no? How do we address that? Or is there really no way for us to be able to change that impression?
We were talking to, I won't name, the airlines, they've been given already a lot of incentives to at least try and lower their rates given the fuel crisis. But they did say that even if they waive the fee of landing fees, if they waive that, 80% of their cost is still fuel. So it is really something very hard for them to do. And what we can do now is just really maybe foster competition from low cost carriers. Ask more of the airlines to come and be given more slots in the slots in the airport, quid pro quo. So while if we give them slots in the airport, then it's just not really to carry people out, but to bring people in.
And it goes beyond just the airfare, no? I mean, when people talk about being expensive to come to the Philippines, they also talk about the hotel rates, which you've addressed already in terms of talking to ano. But like long range, and I know that this destination actually already exists, but sometimes you're wondering, does it really have a future, or is the future going to end up being sort of like misdirected, like Siargao? How do you control, or how do you ensure that Siargao doesn't become another Boracay, di ba, which had to be shut down,
Yes.
5-6 years ago or something like that, di ba?
Right. Well, for Siargao, we have a problem. We're starting to have a problem there with, you know, disruptions by some tourists. And my take on that is we have to protect our locals, like, not exempt tourists from the force of the law. So we got to be more vocal about those things. And then we have to be more aggressive in protecting the environment. So we need to invest a lot on a science-based tourism development plan. So for instance, we have the University of Visayas who's monitoring the algae in our beachfronts. Those sort of things we have to think about. And then make sure that the hidden beaches are not soiled and not ruined by over tourism. So we have forward planning to consider.
And I know I'm one with the public in general in terms of wishing you a lot of success in
Thank
terms
you
of
very
what you're
much.
embarking on. Because I know you have like just assumed the office 2 months ago, but tourism already is like something that's very important and has to be something part of what national development will occur. And people have been saying that the time for talk has long passed. No, it's really required now that we do action. But what do you comment on that? Because I mean, action for action's sake can't also just happen, di ba? It's got to also be properly done in such a way so that it's really the right action. Because we've seen also so many times that action was taken and it's the wrong thing in the end, di ba? And you take that whole thing that we started this talk with, that you do the whole 2 steps forward and then you go 3 steps back, no? So what do you say to those people also about action?
Well, what I'm trying to do is, open up conversation and have more stakeholder participation. Of course, I do know for a fact that we'll never agree on one thing. It's like a multilateral negotiations. That's why WTO is having a hard time, because you can't have all the countries in different stages of development to agree on one thing. So that's the same with the tourism industry. But if we have, let's say, I don't even think that the majority count should be the one that's heard, but there are enough models out there to emulate, to know whether you're taking the right direction, given that you take into consideration your own constraints as an economy, so as a country, as a culture. So we'll just try our best. There's nothing wrong with working hard and making mistakes, but for me, success is actually comes from the desire to, be sincere in what you do, and be willing to be diligent and work hard and have everyone participate. So that's the best I can do, actually.
And then there's one last question we always ask all our guests in the sit down. No? If you were able to conduct your own sit down, who would you want as your first guest? Who would you interview? It's like a mentor or some person. It could be alive or somebody living or somebody who's passed away. No, who would you actually want as your guest?
I want to talk to Ramon Ang.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's doing well in his, operations of the airport. He's got now what? In January, 5 million, over 5 million passengers come in,
Right.
and he's increased capacity by this much.
Yeah.
So he must be doing something. But I want to ask him about, what is at what expense? What is what are we taking the expense of what? Of development. So I want to understand why there's so much development going on in, let's say, Rojas Boulevard. Why are
Yes.
they cutting down the trees?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope he doesn't get angry. But this is a very sincere,
Yeah, yeah,
you
right.
know,
Yeah. But just to really
question.
understand
Yes.
the situation.
Really understand, what are the benefits of cutting down the trees and then putting an overpass in that area and blocking the Manila Bay, even reclaiming the land.
Yeah.
I want to understand what are the economic benefits. How will it outweigh,
Yeah.
the what we are doing to
Okay.
what's natural there.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I want.
Thanks very much. And
Very
we hope
welcome.
you've enjoyed
Thank
this
you too.
sit-down episode with Secretary Dita.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.